Hey y'all, it's Laura and welcome back to day 22 of our Scraptember Video a Day Marathon. This is a collaboration with the Scrappy Sisters and Christy's Beautiful Life with our beautiful special guests Melly Art and Angela Barrett, along with a lovely group of ladies joining in every single day, all linked in the description box below. Now for today's sketch, you are treated to one of mine. So of course it is in full color as my sketches typically are. This one features a 4x6 and a 3x4 photo, has a couple of clusters, and has a really nice large cluster at the apex of the photo, so where the two photos meet. There's a nice big cluster there as well. The title is along the bottom, along with some journaling at the very, very bottom. There are some small little detail pieces added in for you, of course, just to give you an idea of where you might be able to put that kind of detail work. Now, this layout is going to be using the Cocoa Vanilla Studio Hello Sunshine collection, which I am trying to finish off. I still have quite a bit of it, even though I've been making this progress for a couple of months now. I'm still working through it. This is the collection that will never die. I am convinced that I could finish every other collection in my stash, and I would still have Hello Sunshine left. Somehow, I don't know how, it has continued to survive all of the layouts that I have made with it, but it's still hanging on by a thread, but it's still hanging on. So this will be a 12 by 12 layout, and it does feature my oldest son, Alex. And this is an older picture. It's about 6 years old. It's from 2015. And what I've done is I only had one picture for this day, but I really wanted to emphasize what it was about. So what I did is I took the larger picture, shrunk it down to a 3x4, zoomed in on his face and his frappuccino, and then turned it black and white. And what that does is gives it a lot more detail or focus in on the subject of the layout, but it also gives you a second photo to play with, a little different perspective, and I love that little zoomed in effect. I equate this to a science textbook. And you know how they'll have the larger image and then they zoom in on one specific part. And that's how I view this particular style of photography. I really enjoy it. I don't do it a lot because I typically have a lot of photos to scrap. But if I have a photo with a story that I think needs highlighting in particular, I will do this particular technique with my photos, and I really enjoy it. So, if you're wondering, I did all the editing on my iPhone. Nothing fancy. No fancy programs. Just use my iPhone's editing software. So now I'm pulling in bits and pieces, and the prompt for today is monochrome. So we're talking one color. I will be the first to admit I am terrible at sticking to one color. This is probably the one prompt I struggle with the most every single time we use it, because one color layouts just aren't that interesting to me, to be quite honest. Yes, you can play with the different shades of a color, but ultimately I love color, and I love using little pops of color to draw your eye through the layout. So I cheat a little on this one, just a little, and I bring in blue and teal because I just couldn't make it work. It was just so boring with just the blue, and I couldn't quite do it. But I think I got close enough for me that it was still a challenge because there were so many bright pops of yellow and orange that I so wanted to bring in, but didn't. And I stuck to the blue and teal instead. And I think I did pretty well with those two. Now, one of the things that's a bit tricky about this sketch is you'll notice it has a lot of florals on it. And I'm doing a boy layout that is specifically honed in on his drink. Now, I know there's been a lot of collections recently that have had straw drinks, and could have pulled something from those, but I don't really buy those types of collections. The only one that came to mind that I knew had something like that in it was the Pick Me Up collection from Paige Evans, and I've used almost all of that collection. I don't think I even have any of those little drink things left. So if I do, I wasn't able to find them. I did look through the stash, but I wasn't able to lay my hands on something in fairly short order that had those specific icon of the frozen drink. So I gave up on it. I said, it's all right. It is not that important. I will find another use for them. My oldest son was introduced to Frappuccinos from my mother, who is a huge coffee drinker and a big fan of Starbucks. And so she had taken him to Starbucks for something. And I guess they were out and about, maybe running errands or something. And she had taken him to Starbucks with her, ordered him a mocha frappuccino, and he loved it. So for his birthday, he asked her for a gift card to Starbucks so that he could get another one. And so she did. And then when we were running errands, he requested to go with me so that he could get a mocha frappuccino. And so I took a picture of it because I thought it was kind of funny that that's what he asked for his birthday. He was hooked. He loved them. Now, we don't allow the kids to have a lot of caffeine, and we don't buy these sort of drinks very often. I don't drink coffee at all, and my husband is a very simple coffee drinker, like instant at home. He doesn't buy coffee. So he doesn't get these very often, more often when he's with grandma, or if Don needs a drink and decides to run through a Starbucks for a regular drink, then sometimes he'll let them get one of these. But I thought that was just kind of a really funny little story to tell about him requesting a Starbucks card because he got hooked on Frappuccinos. So I'm playing around with these bits and pieces. I had a couple of title options for this one, and I really struggled with trying to decide which one I liked better. And let me explain what the struggle was. One, I liked the way that summer sit nicely underneath of the photos. It was nice and clean, fairly flat, sit perfectly underneath that bottom line sticker that I had added as my little shelf to hold my photos. But I really liked the bold color of the happy. And so I was struggling to figure out a way to fit either both of them on the page or to get that happy in there. And it just wasn't working. So you'll see a little montage of fade outs where I spent a solid 10 minutes trying to make happy summer work. It doesn't end up working. I end up finding another option when I started digging through the collection and came across some letter stickers that I had not even started using yet from the Hello Sunshine collection. And that solved the problem for me because these have, they're all capital letters, and so they have that same flat across look as the summer. It's just in a different font. And so I made this work. Ended up going for Summer Slurping because I thought it was funny and because I can't spell Frappuccino, turns out. I'm fairly certain I spelled it wrong in my journaling, but I'm not going to fix it because I think it's kind of funny because I don't drink the things, so I don't know how to spell it. There's a couple of C's, I think. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't want to put it in the title because I knew I was going to misspell it. I could have looked it up too, but I was in a hurry. I was busy. I was scrapbooking. I don't stop to look things up. No. It's like breaking the fourth wall in a movie. I'm in scrappy mode and I want to go look something up. I feel like I'm breaking the fourth wall in a movie and looking at the camera. So now that I'm pretty much finished up, got everything taped down, I decided to bring in a brad to fill in this small gap here between my photos. I had intended again for one of those frozen drink icons to go there, but I couldn't find one. And then the only one I did find was bright purple, which was not going to work on my monochromatic layout. So I decided to take a pass, added a little brad instead. Did not poke through my photo, by the way. I just tucked the little tines behind the photo on the left and then just glue dotted it down. So that worked just fine. Brought in these little enamel dots. These are left over from Endless Summer, which I have even less of, but still never dies. So I'm using up the teal colored enamel dots. Then I'll bring in my T-square ruler to add in some journaling lines underneath of my title, and we'll finish up with our scattering and splattering. So for this one, the scattering was largely those enamel dots. I've added a few around the outsides of my clusters, and then I used the little stars as kind of accent points at the three little word phrases up at the top that I'm using as partial journaling. And I really like how this came out. It's something a bit different. It's not a setup of photos that I normally do, but it was a lot of fun to do and to see how I could fill in that space at the top without using a doily, because a doily is definitely my go-to as a base for a large cluster like that between photos. So now that I have all of my enamel dots and nouveau drops, scattering and controlled splattering done, I want to use silver because bringing in gold would be bringing in a different color. So I'm bringing in silver, which is more of a blue tone, and I'm going to use my Prima metallic watercolors to get a nice silver spray around the outside. I'll come back and add some darker spray right next to the corners of my photos, the top right and the bottom left, and that's it. Until next time, bye y'all.